The next time you need to write a true story, essay, or lesson, we're going to turn it into something of true, ultimate power! We've been talking a lot about creative nonfiction around the company recently because of this new project we've got going on. And today, I'm going to give you 3 strategies that will turn your creative nonfiction into something unputdownable. Whether it's a true story, an essay, or some kind of lesson that you want to share, we are going to make you the most powerful writer in the universe. If you missed the previous video on creative nonfiction, we can boil it down like this. I mean, go watch it. But there are 3 things that make it creative nonfiction. What you're telling is mostly true, it's rooted in story, and you're telling it in a creative or interesting way. So if you're doing those things, you are writing creative nonfiction. Today, I have 3 specific strategies that are gonna get your wheels turning. So if you're already looking at an essay or a story or something and it feels drab, it feels boring, one of these things just might spice it up. And if you're looking at a blank page right now, one of these 3 things might be just what you need to get some real momentum and write your best work ever. We're gonna discuss 3 strategies today: the mashup, the biggest little thing, and insider access. So let's talk about the mashup. This is a favorite exercise in MFA creative writing programs, which, by the way, are a complete waste of time. But the mashup in itself can be a helpful exercise. So the mashup is when you take 2 seemingly unrelated things and then you marry them together in the piece that you're telling. So you could have a story that you combine with something that you feel passionately about, like a political position or a preference or a fear. Or you could have 2 stories that seem different from each other, but that you're going to weave together in this piece. It's sort of like an Italian soda. So for my mashup, I might tell you about how I broke my arm when I was in the 2nd grade. And I might combine that with the fact that Thanksgiving is my favorite holiday. Now, at first glance, those things seem completely unrelated, but because I'm a creative writer and because it's creative nonfiction, it's my job to combine them together. So maybe I say, well, when I broke my arm, my parents had to take care of me, and now that I am adult and I have my own family, I take care of other people on Thanksgiving. So that's the theme that I use to weave these 2 together. Maybe I say that it's because the day after I broke my arm and it was in a sling, I was wearing my dad's t-shirt, like a nightgown. It was this really cool vintage Mickey Mouse t-shirt. I mean, this is 1992 we're talking about. And I was trying to hold it under my chin while I went to the bathroom and it slipped and I peed all over my dad's shirt and I never saw him wear it again after that. And so maybe I tie those things together because now I'm the dad, and in some ways I'm becoming like my own dad, which is sort of what we're always doing. Maybe it's because when you break your arm, they put it in a cast, and at the same time, Thanksgiving always comes. You know, it's this part of the year that's steady, rigid, and unrelenting. But however I do it, just like this Italian soda, I'm gonna have one thing that really drives, just like this seltzer does. And then I'm gonna have something else that brings flavor, like this cherry flavoring does, for something that comes together and is delicious. So to start writing a creative nonfiction piece using the mashup, you can pick 2 things. In fact, make them as weird and as different as possible so that there seems like there's no relationship, and now the fun begins. Now, in your creativity, you start brainstorming all the ways that these things are the same, all the similarities that these 2 ideas share, so that then you can bring them together in an effective way. Once you have that brainstormed list, then you choose one dominant theme, because you don't want it scattered all over the place, but you choose one dominant theme that's going to marry these 2 different ideas together, and then you start writing. A little bit of seltzer, a little bit of flavor, a little bit more seltzer, and a little bit more flavor, until you complete your piece. And when you do that, you're going to have a piece that is delicious. I asked her what she wanted for dinner. "I don't care," she said. That's when I saw it. That's when I knew she didn't care. Not about tacos, not about laundry, not about whether I lived or died. This is an example of the biggest little thing. See, sometimes in life there are little things that affect us more than they should. And creative nonfiction often explores the effects of the small things on our lives. Let me give you a few examples to get your wheels turning. Somebody makes an offhanded comment and it changes the way you understand yourself. You know, someone comments on your appearance, tells you something that they think you're good at, or maybe gives you some unsolicited criticism, and it changes everything. Maybe some unimportant object is ruined and it absolutely bankrupts your day. You know, your pen stops working, or you accidentally put too much cream in your coffee, or you forget your gloves. Maybe you observe something in nature, maybe something you've seen 100 times that is so mundane, but this time it strikes you, it floors you, the beauty of creation, and you just marvel at it. Maybe something small changes in your life. They move a plant at the office, or your mom gets rid of your favorite chair in the living room. And it fundamentally changes how you understand yourself as a person. This is the biggest little thing. So the steps to write the biggest little thing are pretty simple. I want you to think of something that should have been inconsequential, but really wrecked you for some reason. And then the creative part is we ask the question, why? Then through the beauty of writing, we're going to connect the dots between that small, insignificant event and that relatively large change in your life. Some questions that you might ask would be, why did something that shouldn't matter have such a profound effect on you? How does it relate to your life experiences, your understanding of the world? Why were you so fragile or maybe so stoic in that particular moment? Who did you feel like you should be in that moment? And how does it contrast with what you actually did? Now, aren't we being a little dramatic? Aren't we just making a big deal out of nothing? Absolutely. In 1970, a writer named Hunter S. Thompson, who also wrote a book called Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, invented something that he called gonzo journalism. This was before there was ever a Muppet called Gonzo. Unlike traditional journalism, which is supposed to value objectivity, reporting factual information, gonzo journalism invites the reader into the experience. Thompson's idea was that it's not just important who won a horse race, but it's actually important that the reader could feel and see and smell what it's like to be at the horse race. Gonzo journalism values giving access to spaces that the public isn't usually invited into. That could be like the stable at a horse track. It could be the clubhouse of a criminal organization like a motorcycle gang, or even the president's limousine. You have access to spaces that the public can't go. You might not think of it that way, but if we start to brainstorm creatively, you'll find that there are places that you're allowed to go that I am not. For instance, I can go to the county fair and I can check out the horse barn and hang out there. However, I can really never know what it's like to be a 15-year-old girl who has just competed in barrel racing with her 4-H friends. I assure you that this is an impossible experience for me to have, unless you tell me about it and invite me into it. The inside access that you offer your readers doesn't have to be super exciting or glamorous. It's just up to you to make it interesting. Humans are inherently interesting if somebody is vulnerable enough to show us the truth about themselves. Where do you have access that the public can't or won't go? What are spaces that you use language in or jargon that other people might not have any idea what you're talking about? What labels do you accept for yourself? For instance, immigrant, Republican, theater kid, Baptist, Filipino, youngest child. You might think my life's not that interesting, but you're wrong. And that's the challenge. Anything is interesting if we figure out how to look at it and how to tell it. If you're creative with it, I do want to know what it's like to work in the kitchen at an Applebee's. I've never worked in the kitchen at an Applebee's before. If you're willing to be vulnerable about it, I do want to know what it's like to be a theater kid at a conservative Christian college. If you'll share, I do want to know what it's like to sit at the table in a majority white high school where all the Asian kids sit. It doesn't matter if anything super dramatic happened, just let me inside the space. Let me experience something that I'm not allowed to experience. So if you want to start writing something with this insider access, if you want to capture that inner gonzo journalist that you have, brainstorm some places or situations where you have special access, insight, or experience. Pick one of those places in which you're willing to be truly vulnerable and truthful. Show your reader what they're not usually intended to see, the good and the bad. And while you're at it, draw a conclusion or a lesson about life in general. When it comes down to it, creative nonfiction just isn't as hard as it sounds. In fact, if you're posting on social media, you've ever written a blog, or so many other things, you're probably already doing what we're talking about. CNF can be as simple as telling a true story or writing an amazing gut-wrenching essay, as long as you're passionate about it and you're doing it in a way that's compelling and interesting. You don't have to have lived some crazy life in order to tell interesting stories. In fact, some of the most effective creative nonfiction in the world takes what seems like the smallest, most mundane things, but it makes us think about them in an interesting way. And you can do that. If you're having trouble getting started, or you're having trouble bringing the juice, bringing the real ultimate power to your writing, then try one of these 3 strategies we've talked about today: the mashup, the biggest little thing, and insider access. They just might be the ticket to exactly the place you're trying to go with your writing.